All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to unpack a really powerful idea about connection, one that comes from the work of Dr. Kali Du Bois. And it's all based on this one core concept. What if the biggest reason romantic connections fizzle out has nothing to do with your looks or the clever lines you use, but something way more fundamental? What if it's all about your pacing? And here it is right from the source. Most men don't fail with women because they're unattractive. They fail because they're rushed. Now think about that for a second. That's a huge claim, right? It basically says failure isn't about attraction. It's about anxiety. It's this rushed energy, this kind of subtle panic under everything you say and do. And here's the kicker. The other person feels it. Even if you don't say a single desperate word, they feel that pressure.
Okay, so what does rushed even mean in this context? It's easy to think it just means talking too fast, but it's much deeper than that. It's more like a vibe, right? It's a state of being that just kind of leaks out of you. It's in your tone of voice, the kinds of questions you ask. Heck, it's even in the pauses that you don't take.
So let's really break down the problem with rushing. At its core, this rushed feeling is really an energy of panic and, well, neediness. It puts this pressure into the conversation. It's like you're broadcasting that you're trying to get something from them. Maybe it's validation, maybe you're trying to get a certain outcome, or just some reassurance. And that pressure, that's what makes people put up their walls. It makes them emotionally brace for impact and, poof, they shut down. I love this comparison from the source material. It paints such a clear picture. Think of that rushed energy as conversational caffeine. You know what I mean? It's that frantic energy. You're telling jokes, firing off stories, dropping facts, all in an effort to impress someone, and really to win them over. But the entry method, that's about conversational heat. And heat is totally different. Heat is slow, it's deliberate, it creates space. The whole goal shifts from trying to win the interaction to just creating an atmosphere where a genuine connection can actually grow. So the big question is, how do you actually do that? How do you switch from that jittery caffeine energy to that slow, deliberate heat? Well, that brings us right to the heart of this whole thing, a concept called entry. And it's all about learning how to manage the temperature of a conversation. And the first thing you have to understand about entry is that it's not a tactic. It's not some clever line you pull out of your pocket. No, it's a total shift in how you approach the whole situation. Instead of obsessing over the perfect thing to say, you start focusing on the feeling of the space between you two. The whole goal is just to change the air, to take it from tense and, am I doing this right, to something that feels warm and slow and safe. Okay, so here's our first really practical tool. It's called the entry sequence, and it's a super simple 3-step process. First, you pace what's true. That just means you state a simple reality. Something like, wow, it's way louder in here than I thought it would be. See? Simple. Step 2, you warm it. You just add a little bit of human feeling to it. So you might say, but it's kind of nice being here though. And then step 3, you deepen it. You gently invite them to share some meaning. The key here is that it's an invitation, not a demand. It's like taking the stairs to intimacy, not trying to jump in an elevator. Now, here's a really crucial piece of the puzzle. None of this, the pacing, the warming, the deepening, none of it works if you don't nail this next part. And that's a very specific kind of listening. Because before you can change the temperature of a conversation, you have to be able to actually hear what's going on underneath all the words. And this leads to a beautiful concept called psychological air. Think about that for a moment. It's giving someone the space to breathe conversationally. It's the feeling of being fully heard and understood without feeling like you're being judged or fixed or controlled. So many of our conversations are just packed with agendas, right? Giving someone psychological air means you're intentionally making room for them to just be. So what suffocates that psychological air? Well, according to the source material, it's these super common habits. And let's be honest, we all do these. You've got the problem solver jumping in to fix things when someone just wants to vent. There's the autobiographical mode where you hear their story and immediately go, oh yeah, that reminds me of a time when I... And of course, the interrogation, just firing off question after question. All of these kill connection because they're about one thing, controlling the conversation, not actually connecting inside of it. So what's the alternative? What does true listening look like? It's about reflecting back not just their words, but the meaning, the feeling, the values underneath those words. And the most important word here is tentatively.
You have to do it tentatively. You're not telling them what they feel, you're just gently holding up a mirror. You use phrases like, "so it sounds like," or "I'm kind of getting the sense that." This is so powerful because it gives them the power to correct you. And when they feel safe enough to correct you, that's how you build real trust. Okay, so once you've built that foundation of safety and warmth through good listening, you can start shaping truly memorable moments. Now we can get into some of the more advanced skills for really deepening that connection.
This is such a great example of a skill called using sensory language. So instead of a generic compliment like, "hey, you're a good listener," look at this example. "You have this way of listening that makes me feel like the room got quieter." See the difference? One is a fact, the other is a felt experience. You're describing the actual effect they're having on you, right here, right now. And that is what creates a feeling of closeness. All right, the next skill is super cool. It's called future pacing. And let's be clear, this is not about making some huge promise like, "one day we'll go to Paris." No. It's way more subtle. It's about painting a small, specific, and warm picture of a potential shared moment. What you're doing is inviting their mind to just kind of rehearse the idea of us in a very low-stakes, playful way. And that rehearsal, it creates this incredible feeling of familiarity and warmth. And this is a perfect example of what that looks like in practice. I can already picture us doing that little post-dinner walk thing where the city's quiet and you're stealing my jacket. It's not a huge commitment, right? It's just this little sensory snapshot. It's super specific. You've got the post-dinner walk, the stealing my jacket, and it's playful. It creates the feeling of a shared moment in the future, but with absolutely zero pressure. It just makes the idea of us feel really natural and inviting. Okay, and this brings us to what might be the single most important part of this entire framework. We have to talk about the ethical line here. Because look, any tool can be used to build something beautiful or to break things. And the source material is crystal clear on the difference between healthy influence and, frankly, manipulation. And really, it all boils down to this one key difference. Are you offering an invitation or are you making an insistence? Look at the intent. Influence is about creating a shared space. Pressure is about getting an outcome. Influence actually increases the other person's sense of agency, their freedom to choose. Pressure tries to create compliance. A healthy connection always leaves room for the other person to disagree, to correct you, or to just say no. So, here it is, the ultimate gut check question. This is the real test of your intention. Ask yourself this. If she says no, if she sets a boundary, if you don't get the outcome you were hoping for, do you still respect her? Is your respect for her as a person still completely intact? If the answer is yes, then you're on the right track. You're building a real connection. If the answer is no, then you're not connecting, you're just trying to extract something. And so, in the end, this whole entry method really leaves us with this one powerful final thought. It's a total paradigm shift. It asks us to move away from that frantic, anxious energy of the chase, and instead move toward the calm, deliberate, and respectful art of actually building something real, one warm, spacious moment at a time. So what if connection isn't something you chase, but something you build?